Welcome to the Internet Radio Show, The Place Inside, for Monday, March 14th, 2011. I'm your host, Laurence Galian, coming to you live from Mexico City, Mexico. We've got a fantastic show for you today. I'm a United States citizen. Currently, I'm living in Mexico City, Mexico. For those who have followed me and my books and articles throughout the last 30 years, and those who are curious to know more about me, I was born on April 5th, 1954 at 1:32 p.m. in New York City. Today we are going to talk about how to spiritually and physically survive December 21st, 2012. There is a lot of confusion going on about 2012, and right now a lot of disinformation is being disseminated by the powers that be. You notice awareness of 2012 was declining until this earthquake and tsunami struck in Japan. People didn't seem so interested in this time of change. This was not an accident. Certain groups don't want humanity to really know what is going to happen in the next 2 years. So they subtly downplayed it, using various evil techniques within the media and society. I'm telling you, don't fall for it. A lot is going to happen between now and December 21st, 2012, and it is better to be prepared than caught unawares. Today we are going to talk about time and consciousness. First, I would like to say that generally speaking, more and more truth will be coming out in the coming years, and the powers that be will not like this. Nor will the general public that has been asleep for many years, with their heads buried in the sand. Therefore, there may be social unrest, and living away from big cities may be helpful. But this is your decision. In this program, we approach things from a metaphysical point of view, and then give you metaphysical advice based on what is happening, quote-unquote, inside. In other words, the esoteric reality of what's going to happen. I have personally explored Pakal Votan's tomb in Palenque, which contains the codes for the new time. I have been to Teotihuacan and climbed the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon. The Mayan Codex in Dresden is one of the sources of the information of the events that will happen in 2012. Unfortunately, Cortez destroyed over 20,000 Mayan codices containing priceless information and wisdom and knowledge. Today, only 3 remain. The so-called Dresden Codice is one of the remaining 3, and it is quite strong in what it states will occur around 2012. It clearly states that all sorts of environmental catastrophes are going to occur. That is why people are concerned, and some started to believe that this is going to be the end of the world. But the Maya intimately knew about cycles. The Codice definitely stops at December 21st, 2012, but that does not mean that the Maya believed that the world would come to an end. There is no question that environmental catastrophes have been increasing all across the globe in the last few years. This cannot be denied. And what is happening in Japan as we speak is proof positive, if anyone needed additional proof, of the reality of the Mayan prophecies. I'm a professional tarot reader. One of the very first things that I tell my clients is that what they are about to hear is not written in stone. It is only the way that the wind is blowing right now. A ship captain in the old sailing days, on the days that they would set sail, he would go out in the morning and check the direction of the wind. He would not say, well, the wind is coming from the south today, so we're not going to sail. No, not at all. This is what he would do. He would trim his sails so that the sails could utilize the southern winds. The same applies to the Mayan Codex. This codex is showing us the way the wind is blowing right now. As human beings, we have the ability to influence the world. We have the ability to create change. And most importantly, we are the representatives of the divine on this planet Earth. The number 13 was extremely important to the Maya. There are 13 moons in the year. There are 13 major joints in the human body. There are 13 lunar cycles in the solar year. And the moon travels 13 degrees through the sky every day. 13 is also the number of the death card in the tarot. But it is nothing to be afraid of. The death card in the tarot represents transition, moving from the known to the unknown, being part of a powerful moment, and writing your fate. Humanity also has friends in high places throughout the galaxy that do not want humanity to disappear and care very much for us and for planet Earth. Definitely we are at a balance point right now, and things could go in any direction. It's like the famous Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. Let's explore the details, and then we'll get into more about what you can do to get through the coming years. From Izapa, Mexico, at 12:08 p.m. on December 21st, 2012, the quote, sacred triple rebirth of the sun, unquote, will occur. The sun will be in the middle of the dark rift, the Mayan birth canal, in the center of the Milky Way galaxy, on the day of the winter solstice. 4 planets will form the horizontal crossbar of the sacred tree, and the sun will be virtually exactly in the middle of these planets. This is also quite significant as to why the Mayan picked this exact day to restart the calendar. These planets are Mars, Pluto, Mercury, and Venus. Izapa, Mexico, the birthplace of the Mayan long count calendar. The Maya stated in the Chililaban that Quetzalcoatl, whom the Mayan called Kukulkan, will return on 2012. The actual prediction is stated precisely by the Maya as follows, quote, Kukulkan will come for the second time. It is the will of God, unquote. Do you know that our planet wobbles? The invisible axis that runs from the North Pole to the South Pole of our Earth wobbles like a child's spinning top. However, it is a very slow wobble. As the Earth rotates on its axis, so too does the axis of the Earth very slowly wobble. This is a scientific fact that no scientist disputes. It takes approximately 25,626 years for the Earth to complete one wobble. This is known as the precession of the equinox. Therefore, December 21st, 2012 is not just a time of alignment with the center of the galaxy, but it is the completion of the 25,626 year cycle. This is the great secret known to all the wise sages of antiquity. Not only is the end of the Maya cycle, it is the end of the ancient Vedic cycle. Thus the ancients left us clues which help us to get through this time. Now each wobble is divided into 5 segments, each about 5,125 years in length. We are now in the 5th cycle or segment. December 21, 2012 is known in various cultures as the shift of the ages, the end of days, the great world age, the great cycle, the age of revealing, the return of the gods. The present cycle began in 3114 BCE and ends on December 21, 2012. We are already beginning to feel the energies from this alignment. Physicists have found evidence for the highest energy photons ever detected to be emanating from the Milky Way's equator. Science Daily reported, quote, physicists at nearly a dozen research institutions, including New York University, have discovered evidence for very high energy gamma rays emitting from the Milky Way, marking the highest energies ever detected from the galactic equator. Their findings, published in the December 16th issue of the Physical Review of Letters, were obtained using the Milagro Gamma Ray Observatory, a new detector located near Los Alamos, New Mexico, that allows monitoring of the northern sky on a 24-hour, 7-day-per-week basis, unquote. The scientists, media, and popular radio commentators who are saying that this is not true are obviously disseminating disinformation. We just read to you the quote above, directly from scientists using the very latest instruments. So obviously, someone or some group does not want you to know that energy is coming to the Earth from the center of the Milky Way. Be aware of these liars in the media. What first must be remembered is that our expectations, our emotions, and our hidden psychological processes all influence what happens in the world. Let us look at expectations. Images we surround ourselves with play a big role in our lives. Do you surround yourself with images from watching television news shows, reading newspapers, movies, and other media that show the human being as depraved, criminal, and morally weak? The Bhagavad Gita Bible, Quran, and other sacred texts tell us that many highly advanced civilizations from antiquity collapsed and disappeared completely. The remains of fallen empires are scattered across the face of the earth. Chellis Glendinning writes, quote, "Our society is made up of vast numbers of traumatized individuals, and our culture has come into being through a universally traumatizing process. The outcome? Today's technological civilization, with its massive psychopathologies and unending ecological disasters, is a collective reflection of the traumatized personality," unquote. Scientists tell us that during the last 120,000 years alone, there have been roughly 20 sudden and drastic cooling and warming episodes, averaging one about every 6,000 years. The end of the last ice age occurred about 11,500 years ago. At about the same time, the Earth was pummeled with meteors attacking in swarms. The Earth shook. Sea levels rose. Cities were buried in debris. 75% of humanity was wiped out. The Mayan calendar goes back over 500,000 years. What we call mythology is often the way ancient history has been passed down to us today. For example, flaming meteorites have been pictured as serpents. The great spiraling serpent represents the galaxy. Like the beginnings and endings of the ice ages that preceded it, the close of the most recent glacial period came suddenly, and it brought catastrophes, mass extinctions, and devastation in its wake. Sea levels rose by some 300 feet, causing massive flooding. I grew up on Long Island, New York, and I have seen over just the last 30 years huge portions of the beaches eroded, until the beaches have almost entirely disappeared. Gargantuan efforts are made every year to pour millions of tons of sand onto a few of Long Island's beaches, mostly for the pleasure of the rich people who live along the beach front. At the close of the last ice age, hundreds of species were extinguished, including, in America alone, the camel, mastodon, mammoth, ground sloth, dire wolf, short-faced bear, mountain deer, and saber-toothed cat. Also, the Earth's magnetic field has reversed its polarity some 20 times during the past 4 million years. Most recently, about 12,500 years ago, in the so-called Gothenburg flip. Today's program cannot even begin to explore the numerous meteor strikes that have hit the Earth and traumatized humankind. Nor do we have time today to explore the various wars humankind was subjected to when, as you can read in the Hindu sacred text called the Vedas, our planet, our moon, the planet Mars, and the solar system were attacked by invaders with super advanced technology and who were not from this earth. Clearly, the Earth was not a quiet place during the time Homo sapiens was evolving. Our human ancestors were traumatized over and over again by various natural and extraterrestrial disasters. Now that you are aware of what is going to occur on or approximately 2012, it is now time to prepare yourself for the events preceding this quantum leap of cosmic energies. These next 2 years are going to be difficult for humanity. Old institutions are going to break down. Secrets hidden from humanity for millennia will be revealed. I suggest that any and everything might happen during this period of time. Greg Braden eloquently describes our situation. He says, quote, "Everything is asking us to take a look. We're in a time of graceful urgency," unquote. How should we prepare? That is the crucial question. First, instead of getting involved in the political arena, a fake game of dialectics, move into a different plane of reality. The organizations that rule the world want to erase our spirit of rebellion. These organizations seek to enforce conformity, violence, and the subjugation of the true spirit of rebellion. Robert C. Byrd reminds us that, quote, "In Rome, no one complained when Caligula made his horse emperor. He actually made his horse emperor, and no one said a thing." Do not get involved in the dualities that the powers that be want to get us involved in. Run from priests and potentates. See what is really going on. Witness the big picture. However, our rebellion is not through sticks and stones or weapons. Let us make that clear. Our rebellion is a rebellion of consciousness. We are declaring a revolution of awareness. This is how we can truly effect change in our world. Jung wrote, quote, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to stop from facing their souls," unquote. It is absolutely necessary, in order for us to survive as a civilization, to face what is hidden within ourselves. Jung goes on to inform us, quote, "The gigantic catastrophes which threaten us today are not elemental happenings of a physical or biological order, but are psychic events. To a quite terrifying degree, we are threatened by wars and revolutions which are nothing other than psychic epidemics. At any moment, several millions of human beings may be smitten by a new madness, and then we shall have another world war or devastating revolution. Instead of being at the mercy of wild beasts, earthquakes, landslides, and inundations, modern man is battered by the elemental forces of his own psyche, unquote. The revolution will be fought within our own minds. Change your consciousness while there's still time. We must look inside in order to solve the problems of outside, to offset the possible negative planetary and cosmic effects of 2012, to amplify the positive effects, and to neutralize the efforts of the powers which seek to enslave humanity. We must become true human beings. I say we must not imagine a God who is only a projection of our wounded animus. Some call it, quote, the monster of the id, unquote. We must let go of the God in the sky and embrace the ultimate reality, which is experiencing reality as us. We are the Earth Wizards. Let's ask this question. What is it that we are not facing? I believe it is the enslavement of our own selves. It is the untold sadism we wreak on our own selves. We must cease the tyrannizing of ourselves. We must cease being cruel to ourselves. We are not the enemy, yet we have become criminals to ourselves. When we cease treating ourselves as slaves, we shall be free. There are many doomsayers predicting horrible things that will happen in the next 2 years. It is true, we must do away with the monetary structure as it now exists in the United States and around the world. We can no longer support a structure in which the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, while the middle class is slowly squeezed out of existence. We must change to a system of barter and the complete removal of usury. Heinberg mentions, quote, "It is also possible to benefit from techniques used in shamanic cultures for the reintegration of nature and psyche," unquote. The technique known variously as family constellation or systemic healing is just such a technique and should be widely utilized by individuals, families, businesses, and, surprisingly, governments. Family constellations makes use of the morphogenetic field discovered by Rupert Sheldrake. We will be doing an entire program on this extremely fascinating discovery very soon. Arnold H. Glasgow said something incredible. He said, quote, "The future is the past returning through another gate," unquote. If we keep making the same mistakes, each time a window of opportunity opens to change things, we as a species will be bound to keep repeating the same drama over and over again. In other words, if we do not change now, during this period of 2012, we face the extinction of our nation. just as so many other nations have perished throughout history during these ultimate times of the great cycles. However, if we seek to discover what we have been doing incorrectly and seek to right it, then humanity has a chance for a bright new future. Many radio hosts are trying to scare the hell out of people. Now we know that the amygdala is part of the brain that controls the fight or flight syndrome. Many of these famous radio personalities are causing people to go into the fight or flight mode. Many of them are being called on the carpet for this right now. Scientifically, we know that the upper portions of our brain literally shut down when we are faced with immediate danger. We can't use the higher levels of thinking and reasoning when our amygdala tells us to either run or fight. Some scientists call this part of the brain the reptilian brain because it is only concerned with physical safety, fighting, sex, eating, territoriality, and so on. And then these radio hosts scare the hell out of people by telling them that reptilian aliens are out to get them. How do you think the people are going to respond? They respond like reptiles. It's funny in a way. Warning people about reptiles from outer space makes people start acting like reptiles. Greg Braden reveals to us that, quote, our beliefs have the power to change the course of events in the universe, literally to interrupt and redirect time, matter, and space, and the events that occur within them, unquote. We must visualize, but not in the way visualization is usually taught. Greg Braden tells a story about an indigenous American Indian friend of his. His friend said that they were having a drought, and would Greg like to go with him to do a American Indian ceremony for rain? Of course, Greg, having a lifelong interest in such things, said, of course, let's go. And so, the next day, he and his American indigenous friend went out walking, and they walked and walked and walked very, very far out into the desert. And then finally his friend told Greg to please stop and wait at a certain point, and his friend continued for several more yards and climbed a small mound. His friend stood there for a few moments, and then, without doing anything else, just walked back down to join his friend, Greg Braden. And Greg looked at him and said, what happened? What did you do? I thought you were going to do an indigenous American Indian ceremony for rain. His friend said, I did. Greg said, you did? What did you do? His friend said, I stood there and I felt the feeling of a downpour pouring down upon my face and body. I felt the smell of the earth when the rain permeates the earth and makes it wet. I felt the smell of the buildings in my village when the rain is pouring down. I felt my bare feet walking in the mud I felt and heard the thunder and the lightning. And Greg, for the first time in his life, had his eyes opened, his mind opened to what visualization really is. We must visualize, feeling deep in our hearts that what we have imagined is already a reality. When I say in our hearts, what I mean is that just picturing things to ourselves is not creative visualization. His American Indian friend could have just had this picture in his mind of it raining, but that would not have worked at all. Like the American Indian, we need to feel deep inside ourselves what it would feel like to have what we need. And sure enough, by the time Greg Braden and his American Indian friend got back home to the village, it was pouring rain. And so we need to feel the feelings inside ourselves that the next 2 years sees events unfold that will raise humankind up to its utmost stature. We must not try to avoid discomfort. Remember, I spoke at the beginning of this program that hiding from discomfort is the way of the coward, not the magus. We must not hide from reality, utilizing all the tools, the drugs, designer clothes, giant LCD flat screen TVs, bigger SUVs, and so on. They want us to have overfed bodies and undernourished souls. They want to dumb us down and to get us fighting instead of looking at the source of the problems in the greater reality in which we live. For growth involves the expenditure of energy, time, effort, and moving forward. We are not recommending New Age Band-Aids. We are recommending true and deep and psychological work. When we visualize, we must feel deeply in our hearts how we would feel if all of humankind were treating themselves and each other with the greatest compassion. This is the prayer of the heart. Compassion connects everything in the universe. Compassion underlies everything. Get in contact with the basis of reality. There is a Buddhist message that states, reality exists only where we create a focus. If we focus on impending disaster in the coming 2 years, then that will become our shared reality. But if we focus on a new dawn of peace, compassion, and cooperation among the peoples of the world, then that will become our shared reality. When we come together in common emotion through a magical circle, a meditation circle, a visualization circle, a coherence circle, this common emotion influences the Earth's magnetic field. Progressive scientists are telling us that we human beings can affect the Earth. This is what we need to do. We need to create what is known as a state of, quote, high coherence, unquote, in our person, our personal lives, and in all of humanity. So, you ask me, Laurence, how do I achieve a state of high coherence? High coherence is triggered through deep, heartfelt emotions of appreciation, gratitude, and compassion. Focused communal human emotion has a quantifiable effect on the magnetic field of the earth. You need to start working on your inside also. So that means acceptance and forgiveness of yourself. You no longer have the time for guilt, shame, fear, and embarrassment. The doomsayers create what is known as a state of, quote, low coherence, unquote. Low coherence is triggered by emotions of frustration, anger, jealousy, rage, and hate. You can see how our would-be political masters would want us to be in a state of low coherence. Low coherence emotions inhibit cortical function, create hormonal imbalances, generate heart rhythm chaos, trigger cognitive shutdown, and result in suboptimal performance. High coherence emotions facilitate a shower of the anti-aging hormone DHEA. They increase cortical function, produce heart rhythm coherence, generate mental clarity, and increase productivity. Does that sound like what you want to experience? The more compassion, deep compassion, you can feel for yourself and others, the more appreciation you can feel for what you have in life, the more gratitude you can feel toward the ultimate reality, but by whatever name you call the ultimate reality, the more transformative and productive the next 2 years will be for you and others. The years leading up to 2012 can be a time when humanity opens up the doors of awareness, outer and inner, in order to fully experience the true majesty of what it means to be a human being on this earth. 2012 is not the end of the world. It is the beginning of a more deeply meaningful and joyful world for every human being. This is called the shift, and this is what 2012 is all about. Stephen Hanauer writes, quote, "The Mayan calendar is the only calendar known to be based on the galactic cycles. The Mayans claim they created this calendar in order to monitor the light coming from the center of the galaxy and how it affected our DNA. We now know through the work of Fritz Popp that DNA not only absorbs light, but also emits light. DNA appears to be the bridge between our physical and etheric bodies. modern science now realizes that our DNA directly reflects our consciousness, making it possible for us to willfully change our DNA, unquote. Our DNA will change because of the emanations coming from the center of the galaxy. There will be a mass Kundalini experience. However, we can start the work now by working on achieving high coherence within ourselves. There is not going to be a messianic return in 2012. There is going to be a consciousness awakening. 2012 is an energy field that is largely dependent on our focus and how we go into it. 2012 is a resonance point. The Mayan state, 2012, is the time of the return of the ancestors and the women and the men of wisdom. They tell us, quote, not to be afraid, and spread this message throughout the world, unquote. Many of us are going to start to experience amazing things in the next 2 years. Psychic abilities, time travel, telekinesis, levitation, instant healing, among many other abilities. Thank you for joining us in this program. We are going to travel deeper and deeper into the world of ancient humanity, exploring the lives and teachings of the great masters from Atlantis, Lemuria, Hyperborea, and their students, and extra and intra-terrestrials. We will explore the origins of evil and how to deal with it in our lives. We are going to uncover amazing things lying at the bottom of the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans and deep within ourselves. Let us become aware of the divine spark that shines within us. New Falcon is coming out with a second printing of my book, Beyond Duality, The Art of Transcendence, which will include, on the brand new cover, a mystical picture of the world tree. And the book discusses at great length how you can transcend the forces of duality and manifest your desires into realities. I've written an afterword for this second printing, which is half as long as the book itself. So if you've already read the book, be prepared for some cutting-edge, magical techniques that have never before been given to the public in this new afterword that I have written. Write me at drmljg@earthlink.net. That's D as in David, R as in Robert, M as in Michael, L as in Lawrence, J as in Joseph, G as in Galian, at earthlink.net to ask me your questions about 2012 or anything else that involves the topics that we will be discussing in The Place Inside. I want to hear from you. We're in this together. I will contact you again soon.